I think guys give these animals too much credit. In my opinion, they do way too much overthinking instead of just going out there and trying something, proving to themselves it'll work. You get it in your head, that won't work, that won't work. That's what you've always been told, and you're never willing to go try it. How do you ever know if you're not willing to go try it, you know? There's no way that we would have ever got the stuff that we've got over the years if we wasn't, for one, willing to try, willing to fail, willing to let a few get away to learn what'll work and won't work. You know, a lot of guys think we're crazy for the way that we go about doing it, but I mean, the footage speaks for itself. You have to be willing to try something to see if it's gonna work. And if you're not willing to be open-minded enough, you're never gonna know if it'll work or not. These other guys are doing it, doesn't matter where they're at, what state they're at, a coyote's a stinking coyote, no matter where that coyote's at. You tell me there's coyotes in the United States that get more pressure than Texas coyotes, you're crazy.
For as far back as I can remember, even when I was a little kid, when someone told me something didn't work, I always had to know why. I was never satisfied with it just doesn't work. There has to be a reason or a why it doesn't work. Don't know why I'm that way, but the inherent need to understand the why when something fails has always been there. I guess I just feel if I don't know why something didn't work, how am I ever going to know what to change or correct to make it work? Unfortunately, I'm that way with everything, and this particular situation is no different. What's bugging me today is something that's been ongoing since I'd say probably around 2009, because that's when it all started. That was the very first year we showed the world what's possible with an extreme amount of light and a coyote, at least a coyote from Texas. Back then, we were filming for a show called Carnivore, showing footage of coyotes doing things that for years was said to be not possible with lights. And for the predator hunting community at the time, it was like a bomb went off. How dare these guys from Texas suggest you can kill a coyote with that much light, much less a white one? That's blasphemy. It was as if we intentionally went out to prove someone wrong, but that had nothing to do with it. It was never about discrediting any night hunters that had come before us. The driving force behind what we do with lights is only our persistent pursuit to shoot better video. And it's always been just that. That's all it ever was, but that's not how some guys took it. We simply needed a better way to get what we do on video. In the beginning, we got a ton of criticism, but honestly, I never lost any sleep over it because I knew it was never going to make us change what we do. Frankly, I didn't care. We just kept doing what we do, and now here we are 14 years later, still doing it. But although we never let the criticism get to us, it did, however, give birth to a certain claim I've probably heard 1,000 times since that did. Like a broken record, this claim kept popping up over and over after watching our footage. It was always after watching our footage. The claim that was getting to me was simply, my coyotes won't do that. In other words, the coyotes in his or her area won't put up with that much light. Now there's a few different ways a guy like me could take that claim. He's either inferring his coyotes are much smarter than the ones we hunt here in Texas, or he's suggesting we just have unusually dumb coyotes, making this even possible here and only here. There's not a whole lot of other ways to take that claim. Otherwise, why would they even say it? But the thing is, that in itself is not what's bugging me. What's eating at me is the fact that not one single person who ever uttered those words to this day ever explained why. There has to be a reason better than they just won't. Okay, first, before I ruffle anyone's feathers more than I maybe already have that ever said that, let me clarify right up front. This is not about you being right or wrong. So take a deep breath and let's all work through this together.
Holy smokes, that's bright. Heck yeah.
This is simply a quest to better understand why a coyote from one state would act completely different towards a light than another. What would make a coyote from Texas act completely different than a coyote from, say, Ohio when hit with a light? If you think about it, that's a really deep question with no telling how many variables. I've spent the past few months working through different possibilities in my head that could be my answer, and I think I narrowed it down to only a handful of possible explanations. The first possibility that comes to mind, could there really be areas across the country with a breed of coyotes that are just genetically smarter from birth than our coyotes here in Texas? In other words, did they just pop out of the womb and just decide I don't like a light? Could a genetically smarter strain of coyotes possibly be my answer? That is a possibility, but the more I thought about it, the more it raised yet another question I couldn't get past to support that theory. Every time I kept coming to the same conclusion. Let's all take a moment to pose a really crazy question, and y'all just need to bear with me a sec. If you could take every single coyote who's allegedly smarter from birth genetically than a Texas coyote and put them all on a bus as a baby and ship them all south to Texas to live out their little life, would he act like a coyote from Texas? Or would he act like a coyote from Ohio where he's from when hit with a light like the claim being made? Think about that for a second. Now, obviously, you'd never be able to conduct that experiment in reality. But it does, however, make you question, is there really a truly smarter breed of coyotes out there whose behavior towards a light is driven solely by the genetics he was given at birth? If genetics is truly the answer, in theory, those baby Ohio coyotes should act just like the coyotes do in Ohio and not a coyote in Texas. In other words, he didn't have to be trained to act negatively towards a light. He's just always been that smart because he was born that way. Could this possibly be what the guys claiming my coyotes won't do that are experiencing? Here's what I think regarding genetics. I do believe, just like people, there are in fact coyotes out there that are born with a higher intelligence level than others. There has to be. However, if you ask me if I thought that in itself was automatically enough to make those coyotes shy away from a light, the answer is no. They still have to perceive that light's danger, and the only way they know that is if they get taught at some point in their life to stay away from it. So circling back to the bus full of baby Ohio coyotes that were shipped to Texas, my gut tells me if those coyotes, regardless of where they're from, live their life in the same environment, under the same conditions, would act very similar to a native coyote from the same area. But that's just a hunch. I do think there are smarter coyotes anywhere you go in the country, including Texas, but regarding how they react to a light, I've always felt that's simply a byproduct of how much they've seen it or not seen it in their life, rather than something they're born with. It's basically a learned behavior. So for me, this eliminates genetics as my possible answer. So if genetics isn't the answer to why their coyotes won't do that, what is? If you think about it, the inference being made by the claim itself suggests the only way we can do this with lights is just because we have dumber coyotes than everywhere else. And I don't believe that for 1 second. And to take it even a step further, they've even said, turn that light on here and you'll run every coyote out of the dang county. In other words, my coyotes won't do that. Well, here's the thing. They may be exactly right. Yes, I said they may be exactly right. And the reason I know they could be exactly right is because guess what? The same exact thing happens to us here in Texas. Contrary to what most assume from watching our show, we encounter coyotes all the stinking time in certain areas that simply will not put up with a light of any kind. Period. The moment they see it, they're gone. And I'm not talking about the big light. I'm talking about a little dim scan pro. And 99% of the time, it's usually always in a place we know for a fact is getting a bunch of pressure. So the question now becomes, what's the difference between our coyotes that won't put up with a light here in Texas and their coyotes that won't put up with it there as they claim? I personally don't think there's any difference at all. And the reason we know this to be true is we can make a stand in a highly pressured area with lights, call up a coyote, and about make him do backflips trying to get away from it. Then drive no more than maybe a mile down the road, hit another coyote with the same light, and have him run full tilt into it like it's not even there. The only thing that changed was the location. 2 locations, same exact process. 2 polar opposite outcomes. Our failure in those areas had nothing to do with anything we did wrong, other than where we were doing it. And I just wonder if that could be my answer as to why their coyotes won't do that.
That's a big old coyote, ain't it?
Could the answer really be that simple? When we encounter areas like that here, instead of trying to force those coyotes to do what we want them to do with lights, we pivot and focus our efforts into finding other less pressured areas, holding the right coyote. And if you want to know what the right coyote looks like, you've been looking at it for the past 10 minutes. This is going to be the first rodeo for a new filming light. You know, I've been building different versions of these lights since around probably 2007 or so, with each one kind of improving on the last and basically fixing or changing something that wasn't integrated into the previous version. But the funny thing is, no matter how many I build, every time when we take a new one out for the very first time, there's always a degree of the unknown, because it just hasn't been proven yet. That confidence you build through success, kind of like what you feel with your go-to rifle. These light rigs for us are kind of the same way. Until it's proven to work mentally, there's always a gap from doubt to confidence. My gut told me the right coyote would not give a rip about this new light, just like all the rest, but we needed one to confirm it.
Kill him.
I think it's safe to say the new light's gonna do just fine.
Well, that light didn't bother him a bit, man.
Not one bit. Man, we've yet to build a light that I think has bothered them. Can't remember one that has. And we've been through a bunch of different ones.
I don't know how many lights we've gone through. It seems like, you know, no matter what, they keep getting brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter. To me, it seems like we haven't found a single one that doesn't work.
No. Every light that you've ever built and designed, I've been there with every one of them, and there's not one yet that hasn't worked. We've been from 1 light to 2 lights to 3 lights to 4 lights, and I believe you have now one that has 5 lights, and it hasn't messed us up yet. They keep on coming to it.
Guys say all the time that you have dumb coyotes in Texas, and that's the only reason why they'll come to those lights. But I honestly feel like if you find a coyote that's in roughly the same environment, to me, that's all it is.
I feel like you find the right animal, no matter if it's in Texas or anywhere in the United States, Ohio, wherever, Kentucky, wherever you want to go. You find the right animal, they're going to come, in my opinion.
With the brightest light known to man.
That's a bright sunbug.
That's probably the brightest one yet. And he didn't act like there was even nothing there.
No. I think we did a show here a while back that you called Triggered. Once you get them triggered, that light to them at that point is just a secondary thing that's there. I think a coyote that is educated to a light, no matter where it's at, is educated to a light.
You can't argue with one coming into it at what?
No.
10 yards?
Yeah.
He might be 10 yards.
We just killed one on the last stand. That sucker popped up right by us. He didn't even have time to get conditioned to the light. We burned him down and killed him at 25, maybe 30 yards. You have to be willing to try something to see if it's going to work. And if you're not willing to be open-minded enough to try a white light or try a brighter white light, you're never going to know if it'll work or not. You know, And if you're somebody that is tired of hunting with a red light or just straight thermal, you're going to have to try it. These other guys are doing it. It doesn't matter where they're at, what state they're at. A coyote's a stinking coyote, no matter where that coyote's at. And if you tell me there's coyotes in the United States that get more pressure than Texas coyotes in this county we hunt in, you're crazy. These suckers get hunted and hunted and hunted by lots of different people.
And I promise you, there ain't nobody using no more brighter light than that one right there.
No, sir.
Sometimes the best way to prove something to yourself is to just go try. And you have to be willing to fail to truly know what's possible. You know, the timing of completing this new light rig and this particular show is no coincidence.
Here's your daddy.
I knew before I ever started building it, it would be extremely bright, brighter than all the ones before, and my intentions were to show if we could take what's likely the brightest light ever taken into the field and still find success in highly pressured areas by finding the right coyote. Maybe, just maybe, therein lies the key. Maybe that's my answer. You know, if we gave up looking for the right ones after only a handful didn't want to play, we'd have gave up a long time ago. And there's part of me that feels like some of the guys making the claim just simply didn't look hard enough. That's definitely a possibility, and some just may have assumed after a handful didn't want to play that they're all that way. That's a definite possibility, but just like here, we can't make assumptions about all of our coyotes based on a couple that didn't want to cooperate. You gotta keep looking for the right one. Ironically, my search for an answer may lie right in front of me. It's human nature and easy to make assumptions about your area and your coyotes based on a handful of bad apples.
I say we should get straight down to business in this spot.
It'd probably be best right here. These things get messed with quite a bit.
Give them a little pound town. You ready?
Sure.
If you have any numbers at all in your area, they're not all that way. If you think about it, in a way, we could make that claim also. Only thing that we would change is, some of our coyotes won't do that. But that don't mean all of them won't. Somewhere in the midst of all those coyotes is an opportunity just waiting to happen if you hadn't already gave up.
Man, that right there was 100% bonus coyote for this area. If we had to pick a spot within a 20-mile radius around our house to kill a coyote, this would not be it. This is pretty much the community whole of the county. And everybody around here has permission to hunt this place. I mean, it's not like it's just ours. Everybody's just come to and jack with the coyote hole. If they don't want to go mess with their good stuff, you come here.
You know, if somebody came to us and said our coyotes are extremely pressured and we had to pick a place that was similar to that, this would probably be it.
Oh, 100%. This whole area we're in right here is the most pressured coyotes in our county, no doubt. These big pastures with all these county roads cut through the middle of them, and everybody drives these roads either spotlighting or they used to spotlight, now with thermal and calling. And these coyotes around here have heard it all and seen it all. If I was hunting a tournament or I had to come kill a coyote, I would not come here.
We intentionally went to a god-awful spot with the brightest light ever, just to show you never want to make assumptions, ever. If we can make this work here, in the biggest gar hole we know, what's the odds you can too?
I think it's funny we're using a light that's literally like a freaking alien.
That's called the mothership.
The mothership.
The mothership.
Let's keep rolling.
A coyote is a coyote, no matter where he's at. His actions are gonna be a reflection of his environment. And behavior towards a light is nothing more than a sum of all its past experiences. Some have just experienced less than others. If you ever uttered those words, "My coyotes won't do that," we want you to know some of ours won't either.